Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt drained, but you didn't know why? Have you ever stayed in a relationship, a job, a friendship, or even a family dynamic long after it stopped serving your peace because you didn't know how to let go without guilt? If so, this video is for you. Because that heaviness you feel, it's not weakness, it's the cost of attachment. We've been conditioned to believe that attachment is love, that detaching means being cold, distant, selfish. But that's not true, not in Stoicism, and not in real life. Detachment is not about withdrawing from the world. It's about reclaiming yourself from the grip of things that are not yours to carry. And Stoicism is the ancient key that unlocks that freedom. Now, I'm not going to give you fake positivity or tell you to just let go. That's not what this is about. This is about how the Stoics trained their minds every day, not to disconnect from people, but to free themselves from being owned by people's moods, their praise, their opinions, their chaos. That's a different level of clarity. That's emotional sovereignty. And if you want to know how to detach from people and situations without becoming numb or heartless, this isn't theory. This is the path. Let's start with what attachment really is. Attachment is when your peace depends on something or someone you can't control. It's when their actions determine your worth. It's when your day is ruined because of what they said or didn't say, what they did or didn't do. Marcus Aurelius said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But here's the catch. Most people never even try to find that strength. They think reacting is natural. They think being upset is automatic. But the Stoics knew every reaction is a choice. It might be fast, it might be conditioned, but it's still a choice. And that means detachment is possible. But first, you have to see where you're giving your power away. Think about the people in your life who trigger you the most. Is it the partner who never listens? The coworker who constantly criticizes? The family member who guilt trips you? The friend who disappears until they need something? Now ask yourself, when they act this way, what do I feel? Powerless? Small? Angry? Hurt? That emotion, that's your signal. That's where you're attached. That's where you think their behavior has the right to define your value. But here's the Stoic truth. No one can make you feel anything unless you give them access. Detachment is how you may take back that access. And this doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending. There's a big difference. Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That's not blame, that's power. He's saying, you have a say in how much of yourself you give away. You have a say in how you interpret things. You have a say in whether you let the storm enter your mind. Imagine you're in a small boat and waves are crashing. You can't stop the ocean. That's life, that's people, but you can decide if water gets inside your boat. That's detachment. So how do you practice this in the real world? Start with this one question. Is this within my control? If the answer is no, drop it. Not because it doesn't matter, but because your peace matters more. Someone ignores you? Out of your control. Someone disappoints you? Out of your control. Someone misunderstands your words? Out of your control. Your job is not to manipulate people into behaving better. Your job is to master your response. And here's where it gets deep. The Stoics didn't detach because they wanted to win. They detached because they wanted to be free. Because as long as someone else has to change for you to be okay, you're a prisoner to them. You want to know what real detachment looks like? It's not ghosting people. It's not bottling your emotions. It's not pretending not to care. It's listening calmly, without absorbing. It's saying no without guilt. It's walking away from dysfunction without revenge. It's choosing peace over proving a point. It's staying rooted in your own values, even when someone tries to pull you into chaos. And it's remembering, again and again, that your energy is your responsibility. Now maybe you're thinking, that sounds strong, but it also sounds lonely. It's not. Because when you detach from the people and situations that drain you, you make space for the people who nourish you, the ones who respect your boundaries, the ones who meet you where you are, not where they need you to be to feel okay. That's the paradox. The more you detach, the deeper your connections become, because you're not performing, you're not pretending, you're not clinging, you're just being. And people feel that. It's magnetic. So if you're tired of walking on eggshells, tired of overthinking every text, every tone, every silence, tired of living on edge, wondering what someone else thinks of you, let this be your line in the sand. You don't have to play that game anymore. Detachment is not a wall, it's a doorway. And when you walk through it, you don't become cold, you become calm. You don't become careless, you become clear. And clarity is what makes you unshakable. Let's go deeper, because it's not just people we struggle to detach from, it's situations, moments that didn't go how we planned, circumstances that blindsided us, environments we feel stuck in. And here's the part most people miss. You can be physically out of a situation, but still mentally enslaved to it. Ever left a toxic job, but still rehearse every insult from your boss? Ever walked away from a relationship, but still analyze every text, every silence, every ending? Ever moved to a new place, trying to start fresh, but your old fears followed you like shadows? That's the grip of internal attachment. And that's what Stoicism teaches you to break. See, detachment isn't about changing your location. It's about changing your perception. It's how you remove your emotional investment in things that refuse to grow with you. But let's be honest, detaching from a situation that once felt safe, that's one of the hardest things in life. We stay in things not because they're good, but because they're familiar. And the mind would rather suffer what it knows than risk what it doesn't. The Stoics understood this. That's why they trained for uncertainty like warriors trained for battle. Because life will flip the script on you. You'll get ghosted, laid off, betrayed, misunderstood, rejected, overlooked. And the people around you will tell you, get over it, move on, be strong. But the Stoics didn't say that. They said, examine it. Understand your expectations. Ask yourself, where was I attached to an outcome? Where was I clinging to how I thought it should go? And then release, because suffering lives in the space between how things are and how you wanted them to be. Let me give you something practical. Next time something doesn't go your way, pause, close your eyes, and say this, silently or out loud. This is outside of me. My response is mine. No one takes that from me. Simple? Yes. Easy? No. Effective? Always. Because it brings you back into the moment. It stops the spiral. It reminds you, you don't need to control what happens. You need to control what you do next. And that's where freedom lives. You know what makes people miserable? Not pain. Resistance to pain. And Stoics didn't resist pain. They studied it. They let it sharpen them. They welcomed discomfort like a teacher. Not because they loved suffering, but because they refused to run from reality. And here's the shift. When you stop running from what is, you stop being tortured by what isn't. That's detachment. It's not giving up. It's giving back what was never yours to control. That relationship that ended, not yours to fix. That opportunity you missed, not yours to mourn forever. That argument that still replays in your head, not yours to keep alive. Let it go. And I mean really let it go, not as a quote, not as a caption, but as a conscious act. Visualize yourself holding the moment in your hands, gently placing it down, and stepping forward. Not with anger, not with bitterness, with peace. Because the truth is, peace doesn't come from resolution. It comes from release. That's why Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." You hear that? Your estimate. You gave it meaning. You gave it weight. You decided what it meant about you. And now you can decide differently. That's power. So here's the question. What situations are you still trapped in mentally, even if they're long gone physically? Be honest with yourself. Where are you still playing the victim in your own life? Because letting go feels harder than holding on. Write those things down. Then ask, what's one belief I can release right now? Maybe it's, I should be further ahead by now. Maybe it's, they should have treated me better. Maybe it's, I can't be happy unless I get what I lost. Challenge that belief. Sit with it. Then drop it. Because most of your suffering isn't about the situation. It's about the story. And once you change the story, you change your experience. That's what the Stoics did. They lost loved ones, power, health, status, comfort, and they still wrote, still led, still loved. Because they didn't wait for the world to align. They aligned themselves regardless of the world. That's the Stoic path. It doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be present. And presence is the root of detachment. Because the moment you fully enter this moment, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but now, you realize you've always had the power to move forward. You were just waiting for permission. So here it is. Let go, not because it's easy, but because it's time. And when you do, the weight lifts, your chest expands, and your life, your real life, finally begins to breathe. Let's talk about something most people never admit. We don't just struggle to detach from people who hurt us. We struggle to detach from people we love, from people we feel responsible for, from people who are hurting, and we think it's our job to fix them. This is where Stoicism gets misunderstood, because people think detachment means coldness, indifference, being emotionally shut off. But Stoic detachment is the opposite of emotional suppression. It's emotional sovereignty. It's the ability to care deeply without drowning in someone else's chaos. It's the strength to love someone and still know when it's time to walk away. It's the discipline to offer support, but not carry weight that isn't yours. Because here's what the Stoics knew. Emotions are natural, but being ruled by them, that's not nature, that's conditioning. And most of us have been conditioned to confuse enmeshment with compassion. You ever hear yourself say, if they're not okay, I'm not okay? That's not love, that's emotional fusion. That's giving away the keys to your peace and hoping they don't crash it. But Epictetus said it clearly. Attach yourself to what is within you. As for everything else, it is only loosely tied to you. Loosely tied, not clutched, not tangled, not chained. Tied loosely, so you can hold people with love, but also let go without losing yourself. And look, I get it. You see someone you love hurting, struggling, making the same mistakes over and over, and it tears you up because you know you could help. You know you see it clearly. You think if you just say it the right way, maybe they'll listen. Maybe this time they'll change, but they don't. And you start to feel exhausted, frustrated, resentful. You're pouring into someone whose cup has a hole in the bottom and blaming yourself for why it won't stay full. That's when it's time to detach. Not from them, but from the outcome. Because people don't change when you push them. They change when they're ready. And until then, you can love them, but you don't have to lose yourself. That's a hard line to walk, but that's the line Stoicism trains you to walk. See, the Stoics didn't say, don't feel. They said, don't be owned by what you feel. Big difference. It means when someone comes to you in chaos, you don't absorb it, you observe it. You create space between you and their storm. You listen with presence, but you don't get pulled in. You offer your truth, but you don't demand they accept it. You love them, but you don't make their healing your job. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of people don't want to change. They want relief. They want attention. They want to stay where they are and drag someone else into it with them so they don't have to be alone. And if you're not careful, you'll confuse being there for someone with becoming their emotional crutch. You'll start calling your exhaustion loyalty. You'll start labeling your stress love. But real love doesn't require self-abandonment. And Stoic love? It's strong. It's steady. But it's also selective. It asks, is this person committed to their own growth? And if the answer is no, you adjust. Not out of judgment, but out of respect for you. Because if someone's not willing to do the work, no amount of your effort will move them. You can hold space, but you cannot be the space. You can be kind, but you don't have to be available. And you can be compassionate without sacrificing your clarity. Now maybe you're thinking, but isn't that selfish? No, it's sustainable. Because when you detach with love, you keep showing up as your best self. And from that space, you can actually serve people better. Because you're not reacting. You're not rescuing. You're not building quiet resentment. You're offering your presence as a gift, not as a transaction. That's what makes you powerful. So here's something practical. The next time someone comes to you with their pain, pause and ask yourself, am I here to help or to fix? Am I listening or absorbing? Am I offering truth or trying to control? And most importantly, what would a calm, grounded version of me say right now? Then say that. Because that's who you want to be. Not the fixer, not the savior, not the emotional dumping ground, but the rooted one, the centered one, the one who can hold space for others without abandoning yourself. Because when you do that consistently, people start to feel it. They trust you more. They respect your boundaries more. And they're more likely to grow because you didn't try to force it. That's the paradox. Sometimes the best way to help someone is to stop helping them. Sometimes detachment is the most loving thing you can do, not just for them, but for yourself. Because the moment you stop rescuing, you start respecting. And from that respect, real transformation begins. All right, let's go inward now, because you can learn how to detach from toxic people. You can walk away from drama. You can let go of outcomes. But there's one thing most people never learn to detach from: their past. And if you don't learn how to detach from your past, it won't matter how much you grow. It will always feel like something's pulling you back. See, people think the past is what happened, but that's not what traps us. What traps us is what we believed about what happened, what we told ourselves it meant. The moment you failed that exam, got dumped, got rejected, got fired, lost that opportunity, you attached a meaning to it. I'm not good enough. I'll never be chosen. I always mess things up. And you didn't just tell yourself that once. You started living like it was true. You started filtering your present through that belief. So now, when something good happens, you sabotage it. When someone loves you, you don't believe it. When an opportunity shows up, you freeze. not because you're weak, but because your past has more authority in your mind than your present. And the Stoics? They saw this too. They knew the mind has a habit of clinging to old stories like a security blanket, no matter how suffocating it is. But here's what they practiced. Not just letting go of the past, but rewriting their relationship to it, because the past isn't real anymore. Only your memory of it is, and memories can be challenged. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." Translation: if you keep thinking like the old you, you'll keep living like the old you. So let me ask you something. What identity are you still carrying that you didn't choose consciously? Are you still the failure? Still the one who always messes up? Still the person who never gets it right? What title did your past stamp on you? And when are you going to tear it off? Because let's be real, you're not 12 anymore. You're not stuck in that house, that school, that version of yourself. You're not who you were when they hurt you. When you hurt yourself, you're something else now. But if you don't detach from the story, you'll stay stuck in the role. And detaching from that story doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means refusing to let it dictate your future. It means choosing a new frame. Instead of "that ruined me," it becomes "that shaped me." Instead of "I lost everything," it becomes "I found something deeper." Instead of "they broke me," it becomes "they revealed where I needed to heal." Do you see the shift? That's Stoic reframing. It's not about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending the pain didn't matter. It's about reclaiming your authorship. It's about saying, "Yes, that happened, but I decide what it means." Because here's the truth. The past only owns you when you refuse to reinterpret it. And reinterpretation is your birthright. So let's get practical again. Take one memory that still stings. Not the biggest trauma, just one memory that lingers. A conversation, a mistake, a moment you replay. And ask yourself, what belief did I create in that moment? Was it, "I'm not enough"? "I'm not safe"? "I don't matter"? Write it down, then ask, is that belief true or just familiar? Is it rooted in fact or in emotion? What's a more empowering interpretation I could live by? And then, and this is the hard part, you start acting from the new belief, even if it feels unnatural, even if you don't fully believe it yet, because the mind doesn't change from new information, it changes from new experience. You have to walk out of the old narrative, one boundary at a time, one decision at a time, one brave act at a time. That's how detachment becomes real. It's not one big moment of freedom. It's 1,000 micro decisions to no longer live from pain. And slowly, you stop identifying with the version of you who was stuck. You stop telling that old story. You stop justifying your limitations. And one day, you realize you've changed. Not because the past disappeared, but because it stopped being your compass. That's Stoicism. That's detachment. It's not forgetting what hurt you. It's no longer needing it to make sense, because sometimes closure doesn't come from understanding. It comes from deciding. You decide who you are now. You decide what you carry forward. You decide what matters and what doesn't. So what if, right now, you made that decision? What if, right now, you detached, not from the memory, but from the meaning? What if you stopped being the main character in an old tragedy and started writing a new chapter? Wouldn't that be worth the risk? Because you don't owe your past another second of your future. You owe yourself the chance to live free. Let's bring it home. Because it's one thing to understand detachment, to talk about it, to get inspired by it. But the real question is, can you live it? Can you carry that calm into the chaos? Can you stay rooted when the noise gets loud? Because that's where most people slip. They hear the philosophy, they feel the clarity. But then, life happens. Someone disrespects them, ghosts them, criticizes them, lies to them. Plans fall apart, old wounds flare up, and just like that, detachment flies out the window. They're back in the story, back in the pain, back in reaction. That's the test, not whether you understand Stoicism, but whether you embody it. So let's talk about embodiment. Let's talk about what it really means to detach in real time. Because this isn't about being numb. It's about being disciplined with your emotional energy. Let me break this down for you as clearly as I can. Detachment is not disconnection. It's discernment. It's choosing where your attention goes, what deserves your reaction, and what you simply let pass through like wind through an open window. It means you observe first, before you respond. And that gap, that moment of pause, that's the whole game. Because in that one breath, you decide who you are. Let's say someone sends you a rude message, passive-aggressive, maybe even cruel. The reflex? Snap back, defend, argue, block, and vent. But the Stoic response? Breathe, read it. Notice what rises in your body: anger, defensiveness, that burning need to prove something. Then, do nothing. Not because you're weak, because you're strong enough to choose. And in choosing your response, you prove to yourself that you're no longer owned by your emotions. That's detachment. Here's another scenario. Someone pulls away, stops showing up, leaves you in confusion. The old self spirals. What did I do wrong? Should I reach out again? Why are they acting like this? But the detached self sees the pattern, accepts what is, reminds themselves, if their energy is unclear, it's not my job to decode it. Because detachment means you stop chasing clarity and start creating it within. You stop waiting for people to validate your worth and start embodying it. Let's go even deeper. You lose something, a job, a friendship, an opportunity you really believed was yours. You feel that ache in your chest. That voice says, this wasn't supposed to happen. But then you remember Epictetus. Never say about anything, I lost it, but only, I returned it. You didn't lose, you released. You returned what wasn't meant to stay. And from that clarity, peace returns. Because detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't cling. You allow things to leave your life without trying to grip them in desperation. You say, thank you, even to what hurt, because you trust something deeper is unfolding. That trust? That's the essence of Stoicism. It's not just a mindset, it's a posture. You walk through life as someone who is unshakable, not because life is easy, but because your inner world is no longer hostage to the outer world. That's freedom, but you have to practice it. So here's how you do that daily. Every morning, before the noise, before the scrolling, before the world grabs you, sit in silence for just 5 minutes. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to today that isn't mine to carry? Maybe it's someone's silence. Maybe it's anxiety about something you can't control. Maybe it's shame from an old story that no longer fits who you are. Let it go, not in theory, not in a journal entry. Right there, in that moment. Visualize it leaving your body, and then return to center. Throughout your day, watch for hooks, anything that wants to drag you back into a reactive state. A text that stings, a social post that triggers comparison, a moment where fear whispers, you're not ready. Don't fight it, just don't feed it. Say, "There you are," to the thought, and then redirect your focus. That's detachment, not resistance, not control, your redirection. And finally, at the end of the day, reflect. Did I remain rooted? Did I give energy to what matters? Did I react where I could have responded? Not to shame yourself, but to train yourself. Because detachment isn't something you achieve, it's something you become. It's how you start walking through life, no longer desperate to hold everything together, no longer afraid of endings, no longer trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed, no longer confusing chaos for purpose. You stop being a sponge for everything, and you become a filter. Only what's aligned gets through. And from that place, you're untouchable. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain. You're not cold, but you're clear. You're not distant, but you're protected. You're not detached from life. You're detached from the need to control it. And that, my friend, is where peace begins. It's not in the outcome. It's not in someone's approval. It's in your presence. The moment you return to it, fully, calmly, without gripping, you realize everything you thought you had to chase was already within you. And that's when you become powerful. Not in a loud way, but in a way the world can feel. A calm, a clarity, a stillness. That's Stoicism. That's detachment. That's the life you've been searching for. And now, you know how to live it.